Hi, I'm Juliet from Spoilt Rotten Beads, and today I'm going to show you how to make Vivien's lovely Charleston bracelet. So to make this lovely Charleston bracelet, you're going to need some 6mm Miyuki Bugle beads. Any bead from your stash that you can use as a stopper. This doesn't have to match the colours that you're working with because you're going to take it off later on. It's just to stop the initial beads from falling off the end of your thread. You'll need 2 colours of Miyuki size 11 seed beads, and you'll need some Fireline thread and some size 10 beading needles, some thread cutters and a clasp. So to get started, what you need to do is take your needle and thread it up with the longest length of Fireline that you're happy working with, which is going to be around about 1 metre or 1.5 metres. Then take the bead that you're going to be using as a stopper bead and thread that onto your needle and thread. Take it down towards the tail of your thread, leaving a tail of around about 10 inches. Then thread back up through that bead so that the thread sits around the outside of the bead there, like that. And this bead you'll remove later on. It's just to stop things falling off when you start beading. So to begin with, we need to thread up our beads here, and we've got our 2 different colours of our size 11 seed beads, and I'm going to label them A and B. And A are going to form the border or the edge of your bracelet here. So if I bring one over here that I've made earlier, you can see that in this case it's a pale blue colour that sits on the edge and forms the border, and that's the A bead. So A will be your border and B will sit in the middle there. So I'm going to thread up 1A, 1B, 1A, a bugle bead, an A, B, A. And I'm going to take those down towards my stopper bead then. Then I'm going to pick up 1A and thread through the B that I just added. Like so. And pick up 1 more of my A beads and thread through the next A bead in the pattern there. Begin with, it will look a little bit messy. It'll look something like that. You can just wiggle the beads into position if you want to, but don't worry about it too much, because later on, as you start adding more beads, more rows, it will begin to take shape. Now I need to go back through the bugle bead and pick up 1 more A and go through the next B. Now this pattern uses odd count peyote, which means we now need to do an odd count peyote stitch turn here. So to do my odd count peyote turn, I'm going to pick up an A, and then I'm going to thread back up through this A and B here, but from this direction, so in the opposite direction to the one I'm beading in. So I'll just go through those beads and then let you just take a look at that there. There we go. So I've picked up an A and I've threaded back up through the first A and B added, so that I'm now facing towards the rest of my beadwork, like so. I'm going to stitch through the second A that I added. There we go. Let you take a look at that. So to make the turn, what I need to do now is stitch diagonally through this A, B, A. So I'll be exiting in just a moment through the very first A that I ever added, and I will go through the beads and then I'll get my fingers out of the way so you can see exactly what I've done. Just let you have a look at the direction of the needle there. So there you can see the stopper bead, and I'm exiting through that very first A bead that I added at the beginning of the pattern. And now what I can do is go through the last B that I added there. And because this is peyote, you can now see that what I need to do is add a B in between these 2 A's. So I'm going to pick up a B and go through the next A. And now I'm going to pick up a bugle bead, and I am going to go through, let's get my beadwork sorted out here. There we go, pick up a bugle and go through the next bee there. And this is where it will all begin to sit just right. As soon as you add that bugle bead in, you can see that's beginning to sit right now. And now what I need to do is add a B in between these two A's. So I'm going to pick up a B and go through that next A bead there. And when you pull it all tight, it will look something like that. And I'm going to turn the corner now, pick up an A and go through the B that I just added. Pick up another B and go through the bugle bead that we just added. Pick up an A and go through the next B. And pick up another A before going back through, doing that lovely odd count peyote turn before going back through this A and B here, which I will go through and then just let you see what I have done there. You see I've gone through them, so I'm turning the corner by going back up through that A and B. There we go. And I'm going to go through this, what will be this middle A here, to continue turning the corner there. And now I want to do that diagonal move again, so I'm going to go through this A, B, A, diagonally like so. And I'm now ready to go through the A that I just added. And you can see that what I need to do now is pick up a B and add this B in between these two A's, and then we're ready for another bugle bead. Go through the next A. Oops. Pick up a B and go through the next A. There you are, we've got 3 already, starting to build. And pick up an A and go through this B here. Pick up an A and go through the bugle bead. Pick up an A and go through the next B. And we're now ready to make that turn again. So I'm going to pick up an A and go through the A and the B from the base there. And I'm going to go through this A here, so that's the second A in from the edge of your beadwork, and then make that diagonal move through the A, B, A one more time. And then back through the A that we just added. Again, pick up a B, go through the next A. We're ready for another bugle bead. Pick up a bugle and go through the next A. Pick up a B and go through the next A. You can see how that's building now. So what we need to do is to begin with this pattern, Going to do this a total of 5 times so that you've got 5 bugle beads here, and then I shall show you how to do this crisscross. And then you can see as the bracelet builds, we just move on to little sets of 3 bugle beads each time with these lovely crisscrosses in between it there. So I've carried on beading until I've got a total of 5 of my bugle beads, and I have just made my odd count peyote turn, and I'm popping out of the last A that I added here. I'm going to pick up a B and go through the next A. Now what I'm going to do is pick up 5 A beads and go through the next A. Followed by adding a B, like so, and it will look something like that. Now I can pick up an A bead and go through that B that I just added. There we go, and it will look something like that. So now I'm going to pick up another A, and I'm going to go back through those 5 A beads that I just added, just as if they were one of my bugle beads there. So I'm just treating these at the moment just like a bugle bead. So I'm going through those 5 A that I just added. So I'm continuing with the same pattern. So I'm going to pick up an A and go through that B there and pick up another A, and I'm doing that odd count peyote turn now, so I'm going to go back up through this A and B, through that second B in on that second row, make that diagonal move now through that A, B, A, and through that last A that I just added there. Now pick up a B and go through the next up A. And now what I'm going to do is pick up 2 A beads and go through the middle A in that first set of 5 A. I'm just going through the middle A, so I picked up 2A and I'm going through the middle A of the set of 5. And then pick up 2 more A and go through the next A on the border there. So I've skipped over the 2 A's in the set of 5 and gone through the next A in the border. And you can see how it's creating this, it's like a little cross really. And now I can pick up a B and go through the next A, and I'm ready to go back down through all of these beads again, make my turn, and then I'll be adding bugles on, and this time I'm going to add them on in sets of 3. So I'm going to pick up an A, go through the next B, pick up an A and thread through this set of 5 A beads in the middle here. So that's 2 that I just added, that middle A from the cross, and then the 2 that from the row that I just added. Pick up another A and go through the next B, and I'm ready to make that odd count peyote turn again now. So I am going to pick up an A and go back through this A and B here. Through the second A in on that second row there of the border. Now I'm ready to make that diagonal move there, through the A, B, A. And then through the A that I just added. Pick up a B and go through the next A. And I'm now ready to pick up another bugle bead. So I'm going to pick up a bugle bead and go through, skip over all of these beads here in the middle and go through the next A in the other side of the bracelet, the other border. There we go. Pick up a B and go through the next A. And it's as simple as that. You can see what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to keep repeating that now, but I'm going to be repeating it using sets of 3. So I'm just going to bring a bracelet over so you can see. So I've got, start off at the end with a set of 5 bugles, and then you go on to sets of 3 bugles all the way down your bracelet. And what you can do is alternate the A and the B beads in that crisscross pattern there, so that you're not always using the same bead, so you're not always using the A. So my next time I'm going to be using the B bead for my crisscross, so after this set of 3 bugles. So you want to continue with that until your bracelet is around about 2 inches shorter than you want it to be. And then when you're happy that your bracelet is about 2 inches shorter than you want it to be, do a final set of 5 bugle beads, and then you'll be ready to add your clasp. And I'm going to keep beading, and then I'm going to show you how to attach your clasp. So you can see I've carried on beading now until my bracelet is the required length, and I've alternated my little crisscrosses here with the A's and the B beads. And I'm finishing off by exiting from one of my middle A beads here, so one of the A beads towards the center. That's where my thread is exiting from. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some A and B beads now to attach the clasp. So I'm exiting from an A, so I'm going to continue this sort of stripy theme, and I'm going to pick up 6 beads starting with a B. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads there. And now I am going to thread through the ring on one end of my clasp and back down through the last 3 seed beads that I added. And now I'm going to continue this stripy theme, so I'm exiting from an A, so I'm going to pick up 3 beads and starting with a B, an A and another B. And I'm going to thread through the next A bead on the other side of the bracelet. And you can see there's my clasp loop. And what I want to do is strengthen that now. So to strengthen it, I'm going to thread through the next B and the next A, and then back down through the B and the A, so that I can go back through all of the beads in this clasp loop one more time, just to add some strength to it really. And you can do this several different times just till you're happy that your clasp loop is as strong as you want it to be. The more times you do this, the more times you can get through all the beads, then the stronger it will end up being, the longer it will last. So I'm just working my way back through all of the beads in the clasp loop now. If you find it easier at this stage, you can switch down to a smaller needle, but you should be fine with your size 10 needle. Through my clasp loop and then back down through all my beads again, exiting on the other side of the bracelet there. There we go. Pull that nice and tight. And you can see there is my clasp attached now. So I might work through that one more time before I finish off my thread. So I'll come back to you when I've done that. So I've gone back through all my beads one more time there, and I'm ready to finish off my thread. So to finish it off, I'm exiting between 2 of my seed beads, and I'm going to create some half hitch knots. So I've stitched down between 2 seed beads to catch the thread between the 2 seed beads. I'll pull that through so that I've got a little loop there. I can thread through my loop and pull that knot tight inside a bead there. Do it again. Stitch between through a few more beads. That will pull that knot all the way through. And again, I can do that on the outside. Pick up the outside thread there and stitch through my loop before stitching down into a few more beads there. Pick up the thread between a few more beads. So I've got a loop, stitch through the loop and pull tight. You can just do this a few times until you're happy that your thread is nice and secure. And when you're happy that it's secure, just use your cutters to trim off your thread. And then you're ready to slip the stopper bead off the other end of your bracelet and repeat this process to attach the other side of your clasp to your bracelet. So there you go. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video tutorial. Please let us know what you think in the comments below and check back more for more inspiration. Bye bye.